Okay, I wanted to look today at some code for finding missing people. I very nearly started on time today, and then OBS crashed right as I was going live, and that was a bummer. That was a bummer. Is there a lag? There's a little bit. I don't know if that's because of hopefully OBS will hold the line here. We'll see what happens. So normally on the show we look at source code for open source projects that we've never seen before, just kind of poking around, exploring them with chill vibes and a great sense of not knowing what we're doing. But I wanted to look at it's for whatever reason I was watching various true crime things around Halloween as I was getting prepared for watching movies about criminals, and YouTube started showing me all of these internet YouTubers who are like actively trying to solve active missing person cases. Many of them are working on the same case or like a handful of cases, and I thought that was an interesting genre, and it harkened back to I've never lost a person or a child, which I feel grateful for, but I have lost a cat, and the cat was a brand new cat, so it didn't know its home, and it was gone for about a week, and my wife was convinced we would never see the cat again. But we tracked it down, and we tracked it down with the help of some volunteers. There's like a network of people who help you search for missing pets, but also like cameras and keeping track of what the theory is of where he went and where he was, where he could be. He ended up being about 3 or 4 times as far as the max range I was told that a missing cat would be. But I think that's because the missing cat statistics are for cats that know their home. And this was a cat that was brand new who disappeared during a rainstorm. So the rain presumably interfered with the scent. So at any rate, that whole experience made me think a lot about what it takes to track somebody that you want to find, especially when there's when it's an emergency. It's one thing to kind of track someone down, like a long lost relative. That can be a different activity. But when there's like a missing child or a missing person, then time is really crucial. So I thought this was an interesting problem, and I realized I don't know much about how it's done in practice. I believe, or I suspected, I guess, rather, that the game for finding missing human children was a step up from the game for finding missing pets, and I believe that's the case. So this is from Gemini 3 through AI Explorer. I asked it to walk me through some of the standard software for finding missing kids. On the left here, we have, you guys can see this, right? Yeah. On the left here, we have the proprietary stack, the like best in breed, what law enforcement and volunteers use for finding missing children. I assume missing adults too. I believe that I may have asked about missing kids, but I'm not quite sure. And then on the right is Gemini's attempt to think through what kind of open source versions of the software would be, because that's what we do on this show. We look at source code, so we can't do that if the source code is not available, at least. And so this stuff doesn't seem as good or polished as this stuff, which makes sense. It's already relatively niche as a field of domain for writing software. And then understandably, you would typically want to go with a proprietary vendor who's going to offer you things like 24 hours support. So like if your map of where the person went goes down, it's not on you to try to like restart the Docker container and reconnect to the database. There are people who handle that for you. And also since the projects are funded, it's easier to develop features and all of that stuff. So I think all that makes sense. But I wanted to see if there's anything we could find to kind of give us a sense of what the proprietary systems are doing, and with an eye toward if one were to join one of these internet sleuth communities on either YouTube, or I'm sure that they're also on TikTok, but Reddit, or sort of any forum, that this would be, I'd prefer to look at tools that allow kind of collaboration between people who don't know each other, not quite like a wiki, but kind of in the spirit of a wiki, of people adding their ideas and thoughts and what they know to a sort of master representation of that data. And I told Gemini to think through probably these 4 topics, but case management and timelines, I think, is what I said. Managing the searches. I guess this is timelines. I'm not really sure what I would imagine case management to have some timeline tracking, but then this is like coordinating search volunteers, basically. And we can read through this quickly just to tell you the names of these. So NAMUs, by the way, I haven't verified these, so these Gemini could be incorrect about these. So NAMUs is National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. This should be it sounds like a federal system, and Gemini is claiming it is. Okay. Caseware and TrackOps. This also sounds like this is probably something used by the police departments themselves, and then the National Crime Information Center. But in terms of more like public-facing software, it sounds like SARTOPO, which I believe what this means is it's now called CalTopo, is like GIS software for mapping. It says used for drawing search sectors, print waterproof maps, and track team movements in what? In real time, okay. The lost person behavior, a statistical tool that says where the person is likely to be found. That's interesting. I didn't really see that before I started the stream. And then ArcGIS is like GIS mapping for, it says, multi-agency searches. So some of that we have, where is it? QGIS might be the biggest GIS thing, geographic information. And then for incident management and timeline tracking, Decisions for Heroes is a mission log, tracks equipment usage, incident something, incident timelines, clues found, decisions made, and team readiness. And mission manager is some cloud-based thing for managing call out. I assume call out is like when you get called out to, like, car 54, go check out this something or other, as opposed to like, calling out someone for doing a great job. Organizing the chain of what? Command, logging personnel hours. Okay. And then some incident action plan. And then this is stuff they use for like tracking people. Salamander Live sounds like it's really aimed at, this is for ID badging. It sounds like it's really aimed at maybe like live events, like concerts. But it makes sense that you wouldn't normally have an authentication system of sorts that authenticates strangers, but that's the sort of thing that you need for a ticketed event. So it kind of makes sense that they would use that sort of thing, assuming that's what it actually is. SMS locator, which is part of SARTOPO, allows a search manager to text a missing person if their GPS coordinate. This is interesting. So if they click the link, their GPS coordinates are sent to the command post. So that means that I guess you have to have contact with the person, which is often not the case. I thought it was going to do something else that it does not do. And then some Android team awareness kit that's military grade situational awareness app increasingly used by advanced SAR teams and brute force tracking. I have no idea what that means. So let's see if we can find out what that is. Android team awareness kit. Smartphone geospatial infrastructure and military situation awareness app. Precision targeting surrounding land formation, intelligence, situational awareness, navigation, and data sharing. What does that mean? Like maps? Understanding the environment. Okay, I will read about situational awareness in general. I am familiar vaguely with the concept. I don't know what it means to be a situational awareness app, though. Let's see if we can look at the government OTS, right? Yeah, off the shelf. You can log in, but it's not going to tell us what it is. Command the cognitive high ground. Oh, the cognitive high ground. Real-time data sharing, intuitive visualizations, and integrated planning. So let's see if we can find it. It sounds like it does similar things to some of the other mapping software. Maybe it gives you something like this, where you have gravatars, some sort of representation of the people. Can we just open the image? Here's some Baltimore thing. And what is this? Healthy, probable, confirmed, or critical. This might be for, I don't know. This doesn't look like it's for a search. Maybe these are for people who are injured or something. For like an ambulance team or I don't know. I don't know what that is. Okay, so that's what TAC does. All right. So with that in mind, the stuff that I'm mostly interested in, I think, is the somewhat the GIS stuff, the kind of collaborative mapping, but also ideally both annotating maps and also sharing information about like where volunteers are. So those are kind of distinct features. So like if I'm looking for, let's say, my cat, then I want to know which streets that I've searched when I searched them. And then if I'm looking for my cat with my wife, then it might be nice to know like where she is while we're looking. So those are kind of two different features, but you wouldn't necessarily have them both in the same mapping software unless the mapping software was targeting a use case like this specifically. And then this says, I don't believe that this is open source. So I don't know why this is open over here on the right. But it says Meshtastic for hikers or dogs back to base. I think this is some sort of mesh network. Let's see what Meshtastic is. Yeah. Okay. So this is like a low power decentralized mesh like you might use for emergency situations. That's interesting, though not what I'm looking for. So let's get rid of the proprietary one. An OS int VM. So there are these Trace Labs people. I saw them before this, and they do some sort of missing search and stuff, and they have a VM, but I don't think it's open source. Trace Labs. They are a nonprofit. They crowdsource OSINT. OSINT is open source intelligence. Basically, things that are like public information to help find missing people. So that they presumably look cool. I don't know anything about them. And then Sherlock, a command line tool that checks for, this is like username checking. I think I've heard of this. So I don't want that either. Then what do we have? We have Canvas, incident response case management, and Alculus. Alculus, another case management tool. ResGrid is something about open source dispatch and personnel tracking. It says handles shift scheduling, status logging. Okay, I'll take a quick look at that. A search management map. ADIAT, automated drone image analysis, developed by Texar. This is using like machine learning or AI to scan thousands of drone images automatically, flagging colors of colors of interest. For example, blue jeans, red jackets. Okay. But what about timelines? What I want is timeline. Okay, so Canvas and Alculus both have timeline stuff. So let's take a look, see if we can find about those. And that's Alculus and then Canvas. Canvas sounds like it's too generic a name. We'll also look at ResGrid to see if it has anything that I'm looking for. Canvas iOS. A truly hackable editor. Yeah, that's not the one I want. How about Canvas incident response? This appears to be it. Is this Windows? I don't know. Okay, so here's some, the text is blurry to me, so it must be like triply blurry to you guys. But here's some incident response thingy. And it's got, what? Network connections. This might be incident response for Spreadsheet of Doom. Maybe for incidents like hacking incidents on a network. Multi-user support. Attack chain visualization. Lateral movement for quick review of the adversary's attack path. Yes, I believe this is like network intrusion, which is valuable. We have looked at some network intrusion type stuff, including Metasploit. I feel like we've looked at least one other possibly somewhat offensive tool. And we've looked at Ghidra, the decompiler, which is arguably part of offensive stuff, but not part of attacking a network, usually. So ResGrid Core, complete and open source, computer-aided dispatch, management and logistics for first responders. Yeah, this seems to be a real thing. Updated relatively recently, recently. Personnel management, unit support, group locations. These are like calls. This kind of looks like the standard. I don't know who originated this UI, but this is when Slack came out. This was the UI that everything used. Okay, so maybe I'll add a bookmark here for ResGrid. And then what was over here? Alculus. This is toolkit and case management. A comprehensive OS and case management platform built for solo work or investigative teams. I don't think we get, what's it called? Screenshots. Let's see if we can find screenshots of Alculus anywhere. This may be a mirror. Some people are moving off GitHub, which I think is probably a good idea, but things are often mirrored there. Here's like OSINT, big update to Alculus, the free and open source OSINT management, something or other platform. Why am I so zoomed in? I think to get fonts large. Complete Dockerization, much smoother, more reactive. Okay. Would a video be helpful? Yes. Okay. That is, I don't think that's going to have what we want. So let's try. I feel like Gemini did a pretty good job of going through what I suspect are the real players here. It did when I asked it about like teams of internet sleuths, how they could do like robust timelines. It suggested Aeon Time, I think called Aeon Timeline, which it claims is used for writing science fiction, but it's not open source. But it looks like this. We can take a look at it. So I guess these are like the different characters. So across the top is the timeline of, in this case, like a day, presumably. Presumably this is 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. the same day. And it says like what the people do. So Ryder meets with Countess's assistant. And then the Countess, presumably down here, there's some corresponding thing. So that there should be something like a graph that gets laid out in these swim lanes. And you can imagine using this to timeline a crime. But I don't think that's what I want. So I think Google released some sort of incident timeline tool, but I think it's also not what I want. Let me see. Manage your Google Maps timeline. Timeline lets you go back in time and remember where you've been by automatically saving your visits. Okay, so I guess you could do that for like personal stuff. Incidents for metrics, blah, blah, anatomy of an incident. Time sketch, collaborative forensics, timeline analysis. Forensics sounds good, but I think it means maybe forensics for, again, networks. Start exploring, search for all, okay, so what do we have? Data type, timelines. These are unreadable names. VM1 underscore Plaso hasher underscore FS colon stat. And Plaso parser disk. So these do look like computer things. Threat intelligence. Okay. I'm guessing. This is back to Aeon timeline. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Let's maybe look at another image to see what its intended use case is. Command execute, fail password. Okay, great. So let's try again with the AIs. Now that I have a better idea of what I think I'd really want to see. What is AI Studio? Is it aistudio.google.com? Okay, let's do this. Home, where's chat? Where have you put chat, you monsters? Try it. Okay, so I need an open source timeline app for helping me solve a 20-year-old cold case. There are several different theories of the case. 10 suspects. Let's say 5 suspects. The stories keep changing over the years. And I'd like to be able to construct the timeline and visualize the timeline under different assumptions. E.g., if person, I'm going to call it POI and assume that that means person of interest. So if POI 1 says that the victim was asleep at 10 p.m. and POI number 2 says the victim stayed up until 1 a.m. I'd like to visualize the timeline if assuming POI number 1 is telling the truth and 2 is lying, but also vice versa. I'd like this to be essentially a one-click operation to reflow the data under these assumptions. Does such an app exist in open source? I'm guessing it may not, but it seems like this is a pretty basic requirement. What do you got, Gemini 3? I misspelled different. I used to correct all of my misspellings, but not anymore. I will now just deliberately send them off. There's no penalty for doing so. So it says to use Obsidian or TimeSketch. Obsidian is the best recommendation. I don't know about that. What? I don't want to enable Google Drive. The truth toggle, create notes, create a note for every event. For example, 1 p.m., victim sleeping. Tag each note based on who provided the info. Visualize, install the data view and Obsidian timeline plugins. Then create scenario notes that automatically pull in data. What? So it looks like this. It's a bunch of rectangles. Is that what I want? Also, is Obsidian even open source? Obsidian software. Windows freemium. It's freemium. That's the license. What does that mean? Freemium is not a license. Awesome Obsidian, blah, 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 blah. Is Obsidian open source? I think it means proprietary license. Can I trust Obsidian since it's not open source? No, so that's not real. That's not open source. I don't count that. Professional forensic sketch, TimeSketch. Oh. So wait, is this the Google thing I already just checked out? TimeSketch. I thought TimeSketch was more for network intrusion or computer security incidents. So it's saying that it uses saved views. You can run a search query like tag one suspect. And I'm not sure this is what I want. While it's doing this, let's start a new conversation. And in this conversation, I will say, temporary chat. I must have, I don't know if I enabled Google Drive on my real account because temporary chat is more temporary than I thought it would be. You're absolutely correct to be skeptical of TimeSketch. While powerful, a knowledge management tool. Knowledge management tools are typically like wikis, right? CCRP Aleph. I have not heard of this thing. Public records and leaks. Okay. Global Archive of Research Material for Investigative Reporting. So it says suggests searching for Vladimir Putin or Telia Sonera. How about what? I don't know. Famous person. Celebrity news. Yes. Let's just pick the most interesting top celebrity. Katy Perry. Let's try Katy Perry. Some sources are hidden from anonymous users. That's me. Okay. This may be the different Katy Perry. That's maybe too common a name. How about William Jefferson Clinton? I just kind of want to know what kind of data is in here. Are these like court records? Democratic Club Inc. And the data set is New York active corporations. Okay, so this is finding corporations. Okay. So he's somehow like maybe a member of or a founder of this domestic not-for-profit. What about what if I take this? Can I find like connections between corporations? I don't know. That's also far afield from finding people. So let's not do that. I want to find a tool for analyzing evidence from investigations where the evidence comes from unreliable parties. The tool should be open source. It should allow assigning probabilities to statements, building some sort of hierarchical model, let's say Bayesian or otherwise, just to get the word Bayesian in there, and outputting probabilities for different outcomes, e.g. the victim was the missing person ran from home, they versus they were kidnapped, versus they I don't know, other things versus other things. So this is saying we're okay. So you can say like show events where source contains suspect 1 or suspect 2. I don't think that's quite what I want. And then this OCCRP Aleph thing looks pretty interesting, but it is maybe not what I want. It's for following the leads. It allows you to create network diagrams. Person A knows person B and timelines. And then a pure data approach is like basically sounds like build your own timeline JS with a switch. Not what I want. So on B Bayes, so you could just use like an existing Bayes thing. But there's not missing person tooling that supports this. It sounds like this is a pretty empty field. So I'm going to guess the answer is no. And while it's computing, let's try just searching for missing person in the GitHub. My search did not match anything. How about search and rescue? Oh, this is searching in timeline sketch. So, okay, we can do that. Open source tools for finding missing persons. Finding missing person using AI. Okay, person finder. Google has a missing person database. It's archived. I was unaware of that. How to build a missing persons API. These seem like possibly finding missing persons with social media, missing persons detection system for face recognition. The CBC's fifth estate to scrape missing persons. Okay. Open SMS locator. This is maybe similar to the tool that is built into SAR Topo. Find them through tweets. This is if they're like tweeting. Call for code drone aid. Okay, so we'll just open a few of these. I'm guessing that these won't be what I'm really looking at. FAS scan, lots of face scanning. It seems like people are solving the problems that are relatively easy to solve, like the problems that occur to you if you have an engineering background and you think they might be useful. Those are useful problems to solve. I'm a little bit somewhat surprised, not entirely surprised, that there's not as much stuff here. Did I not ask you this question? The short answer is no. There's no downloadable open source software that blah, blah, blah that does this. Okay. So that leaves us kind of in the lurch. So let's look quickly at this. I did also a search for it. Finding missing people with OSINT. I could do, maybe Google might be slightly better. There's Trace Labs. There's Finding This People. What's the website where you can help find, please find, blah, blah. Okay. For your Renaissance needs. What Renaissance? All right, this project is image processing machine learning along with Postgres database. So you need what? You need like data of something, right? You're maybe going to look at, but I don't know if this is for looking at videos or match.com profiles. I don't really know what's going on here. My guess, though, is that this sort of thing will become relatively useless with AI image generation because people can like post AI fakes of missing persons to like throw you off the case. So even though in cases where there's no foul play, that sort of tool will still be useful because most people will not like deliberately fake an image of a missing child, you know, or something. But if there is foul play, there is an incentive to fake that. So it kind of, you can cause people to waste search energy if you're the person having played foully. This is person finder. Some PFIF data model. Google volunteers in response to the Haiti earthquake in 2010, and today contains contributions from many volunteers inside and outside of Google's. What is PFIF? I thought that was like data, people finder interchange format. From 2012, 2005, about missing or displaced people. It's XML, or it's extended from XML. Does that mean it's not valid XML? It consists of person records which contain identifying information about a person and note records which contain comments and updates. Okay, so this is like a contact thing. So Google Person Finder, Sahana Eden, etc. Disaster management system, emergency manager for disaster preparedness, software developed by the Sahana Software Foundation. This is different from GNU Sahana, I assume. Disaster and emergency management. So this is finding people in a disaster, which is related, not quite what I was looking for though. Okay. So my sense is that there's not much here. Non-interactive system to install, customize, manage Linux systems. What does that have to do with missing people? FI, fully automatic installer. Okay. I don't know where that came from. And then drone aid, an aerial scout for first responder, and it uses machine learning. So there's some guy, presumably one of the developers. How do you know, like, how good is aerial drone footage at seeing individual people? I guess cameras are arbitrarily good, aren't they? That's not what I wanted to see. I may need to cut this out. I don't know if that was a person who's no longer alive or a person just laying down, pretending to be for the purposes of illustrating search and rescue. Okay, so I'm convinced that there's not much here. So let's try. I don't think we searched for timeline. No, not in-person finder. Why are these the first results? Okay, I don't know. Open source timeliner for novelists. There's a story timeline thing. Looking for a good timeline maker. Good old Post-it cards. Okay. So we could look at the Google forensics timeline thing. What is it? Google. I don't think I'm going to do a full in-depth look because that wasn't. I don't know if that's what I want. But we could look a little bit more at it than we have. About time sketch. Installation prerequisites developer guide. I don't know. I don't really want to do this. I don't think this is going to have really what I need. I mean, you could do it in Prolog. Could you do it in Prolog? I don't know. You could do it in there is the Bayesian inference stuff. Let's just see at least what, if we can see anything very quickly about their data model. They have this .Gemini thing. I think this is like the max severity threshold medium. This is for, I think, doing code review. I was wondering if it was going to tell us about implementation. Oh, we do have the code styles. Naming conventions, a commit message, general principles, markdown formatting, contribution guidelines. Okay. All right. Data, contrib, docs, end-to-end tests, rather. And then here's the time sketch folder. API front end, NG versus front end v3. I wonder if this is formally an internal tool. Is this where the timeline thing came from? Time keep. Oh, there's a time sketch. All right, so it was, let's see, I'll ask this. Hey. Was time sketch formerly an internal Google tool? Your intuition is spot on. TimeSketch was built by Google's internal security team for exactly the use case you suspected, handling massive digital forensics timelines during security incidents. It was created around 2014 by Johan Berggren, a senior engineer specifically for digital forensics and incident response team. So this was there when I was there. I don't know if I ever used it because I never did anything hacky, but and I also don't really remember. This may have been what we used for like outages too. Was it only used for, is this the right one? Hacking forensics, or also for tracking outages? So we do have this timeline. How are these color coded? Bad. The owner identifier, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I guess you could use something like this. This is like basically an event log style, like just at every event, like when a witness makes a statement, you would add an event timestamped to when they made the statement, although you would want it to somehow point to the previous thing, right? So you know, witness says on whatever December 8th, they say, yesterday I was eating oatmeal in Central Park with my dog. Then you would want to be able to say, like, you would want some sort of pointer to yesterday, so that when you look at the kind of constructed timeline, that information is in the right place. So let's ask if we can do that sort of thing. Time sketch is a microscope for machine data. It was not used for tracking outages in real time. Monitoring dashboards like Grafana or PagerDuty do that. Instead, it was used for post-mortem analysis of outages. Okay. So can TimeSketch support? I guess maybe what it's saying is like, I think it maybe told me how to do this. You would add an event for yesterday about the oatmeal, and maybe like a tag saying it was a claim. So in TimeSketch, how would I model a situation where, I think it already told me this, but it's too hard to search in AI Studio. A situation where suspect 1 claims on December 8th at 8 p.m., let's say, that on December 4th at 12:05 p.m. they were eating oatmeal in Central Park. I'd like to be able to for example, mark every statement made on December 8th as suspicious because suspect was drunk at the time. I'd also like to be able to look at the claim for December 4th at 12:05 p.m. and find when it was first made or learned, which in this case is December 8th at 8 p.m. So basically you want pointers to and from. So in some sense, you want pointers to and from each claim and the claimed timeline itself. So basically, it's like basically quoting, right? The suspect timeline is in quotes, although the police report or whatever that's written on December 8th, we have reason to believe that that's accurate. Let's say that we trust that we don't think the police are making stuff up, which is something that they can do as well. But one timeline is kind of in quotes, where there's like a fog around it. And it's not, I mean, maybe the problem is, maybe it's unmodelable. Unmodelable. Maybe it's not, maybe you're not able to really solve it. but I suspect you can do better than we're currently doing. If you are set on using TimeSketch, you do it by bitemporal data modeling, tracking when it happens versus when we learned it. TimeSketch does not support this natively. Is this a real word? You could have given me this word before. I mean, phrase. Bitemporal data modeling. A specific case of temporal database information modeling technique designed to handle historical data along two different timelines. This makes it possible to rewind the information as it actually was in combination with as it was recorded at some point in time. This is exactly what I was asking. For example, with financial reporting, it is often desirable to be able to recreate an old report both as it actually looked at the time of creation and as it should have looked given corrections made in the data after its creation. So implementations can be done using relational and graph databases. Yeah. Cool. Mark Logic introduced bitemporal data support in version 8, whatever Mark Logic is. I'm betting it's a proprietary one. Terminus DB, similarly. Okay. Progress software. Revenue, 100 million bucks. That's not a ton for a software project. This is Terminus DB is Apache 2. It's an open source knowledge graph and document store. Interesting. Founded in Dublin, Ireland. It's based on RDF. So like RDF triples, I assume. So kind of like a data, what's it called? Like a logic database. What do they call it? Open source knowledge graph. We have looked at some knowledge graphs, I think. I don't recall which ones we looked at. We also looked at graph databases and related things. Some stuff with RDF triples. Type DB, blah, blah, blah. Is there Apache one? Did we look at Yena? We might have looked at Yena. I think I'm logged into my thing here on this one. Let's see if I can find it. No. I could have sworn we looked at Apache Yena. Huh. Okay, well then that's that. We have not looked at it. Strike that from the record, Your Honor. Tinkerpop, we did look at Spark. I'm like 99% sure. So we're kind of touching on areas we've seen before. You could kind of load all of this stuff into a database. So what was it called? Terminus DB bitemporal. Bitemporal modeling. 6 example of Terminus DB's enterprise data solutions. It's a bitemporal data store. You have a snapshot at any given point of time for reporting regulatory purposes. So let's see if we can find Terminus DB. I don't know. No, whoops. Not Wikipedia. Distributed collaborative database designed for building, sharing, versioning, and reasoning on structured data. Okay. Does it mention bitemporal here? So let's ask a leading question here. Let's give it one database that I suspect might be useful for this purpose, and one that's not. Although it gave me more information here. Oh, this is for if I'm insisting on using what? Okay, so would what is it called? Let's say would Apache Yena or Terminus DB be suitable for this purpose? My guess is no. Even though it's kind of in the right ballpark, my guess is that the primary use case for this, based on what we just saw, is like financial reporting. And that doesn't have the component of like one of the timelines being untrustworthy. It's more that there are corrections made for a timeline. Terminus DB is the superior choice for you to specifically toggle between conflicting narratives. Okay. In a standard database, like in a SQL, you have one state of the world. In Terminus DB, you create a master branch for forensic facts, undisputed facts. Then you can create 2 branches for each suspect's theory. And then you see the world according to suspect 1. Okay. Then create a Terminus DB database or a script for the modeling the 3 theories about what? I don't want to go too gruesome here. I was going to say Jack the Ripper, but I think that's going to, I think that might get this video in trouble. What's a unexplained event? Do I want to search for this? No, probably not. What's the Soviet incident, Dyatlov Pass? That might be sufficiently mysterious and not murdery. The Dyatlov Pass incident. So let's see if it comes up with something. It might. And while it's coming up with something, we'll do a quick look just to explore the, not QBus, QGIS, right? We'll take a quick look at QGIS, which hopefully is open source. A free open source cross-platform, blah, 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 geographical information system. It has flexible and powerful spatial data management and beautiful cartography. So we get some maps. We have this thing, a 3D map view. Beautiful cartography, beautiful cartography. Okay, so is QGIS used by professional teams, professional or amateur teams, to find missing persons? Let's say. Oh, that was there was a headline there, but I think it was GIS and not QGIS. Yes, QGIS is used. Geographical profiling. Case studies in Italy have shown that QGIS being used by police for geographic profiling. Locus operandi analysis. Locus operandi. So that's place of operation. Like maybe where the thing took place. Materials for the study of locus operandi of the missing persons. Okay. Materials. From 2022, geographic profiling, or locus operandi, is a scientific approach that has been applied to forensics investigations for several years. However, it has never been applied to the phenomenon as complex as search for missing persons. Okay, I'll read this article. I don't know if this is the very same QGIS one. Is this from Italy? Yeah, it was right in the title and I didn't see it. Okay, so that seems to be the thing that is that Gemini is referring to. Security check. Cutting edge methodologies. So we can maybe look for some of this. Missing persons. Is this the same person? Pierre Matteo Barone. So it says GIS, drones, ground penetrating radar. Oh, we didn't look at ground penetrating radar or remote sensing. I'm frankly not even sure what remote sensing is. Maybe that includes all things like ground penetrating radar, like sensing things remotely. Remote sensing is the acquisition of information about an object or phenomenon without making physical contact with the object. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What do we mean by, what do we mean by physical? So if we shoot photons at it, I would consider that physical. Although in everyday speech, it's not, it would not be considered physical contact. This is maybe some, what is it? I don't know. I don't know what the scale is. Is that the middle of the Earth? The Death Valley, colored using polarimetry. Polarimetry. Okay. Acquiring information about Earth and other planets. It's used in geophysics, geography. What is geophysics? Just like, yeah, that. Okay. All right. So I think this is maybe the catch-all term. LiDAR. So that's cool. I mean, I think I already read that article, but let's see. So let's find the locus operandi in general. So this Barone guy seems to be the like go-to for missing persons technology guy. Locus operandi. It doesn't like that term in Wikipedia. Can we track him down? American University of Rome. He's an adjunct faculty member. He looks cool. Forensic geoarchaeology, global heritage crime. Is that like committing crimes to a archaeology site? Bodies and burials. Okay. And then ground penetrating radar must be GPR. So this person studies all sorts of applications of kind of the technology to archaeology. These seem like cool papers. I'm not going to read all of them because I'm assuming the newer papers kind of eclipse some of the older papers. But we can now. So there's ground penetrating radar that might help find some missing persons, I guess. I see no reason to believe it won't, but only if they're under the ground, unfortunately. So there is some open source stuff to do it. This one is too old, 7 years old. I'm guessing that if it hasn't been updated, that it's not the most up-to-date thing. The analysis of ground penetrating radar images, I'm going to guess, is largely dominated now by AI or neural network processing. Just a random guess. And what else? And then what else do you need? You need the physical device. And I'm not sure that is. Also, what is QGIS in terms of like, what is its UI? Do you go to a website or is it just like you like download a tool and you have map data and it's like a local thing, it looks like. Okay. Maybe using Qt. And we'll ask Google, are there open source, are there popular, are there open source projects used for ground penetrating radar or infrared cameras, I guess, for search for missing persons cases? I guess in these two cases, it's really going to be dominated by the hardware for the most part. Review of predictive modeling and drone remote sensing technologies as a tool for detecting clandestine burials. Okay. So this does not have the Pierre guy. What era is this? 2025. Forensic Science International. I have no idea if that's a good journal. I hope it is. Okay, so For data, so there is data processing software like RGPR and GPR Lab. Is that one of these? How about RGPR? Okay, that seems to exist. GPR Lab. This is a little bit on the old side, but it does look like it does like maybe some analysis. Installation and easy to use videos, must watch. Okay, and then here's RGPR, and this is maybe more up to date. Free open source software project for visualizing and processing ground penetrating radar data. Great. And then hardware development, that's cool. Open ground penetrating radar. And GPR INO that uses an Arduino Mega and antipodal Vivaldi antennas. Cool. And then infrared cameras, thermal imaging drone for SAR. I think we saw a similar project, which is maybe different AI-based person detection. We saw that project referenced. Okay. What about open source infrared cameras of a quality that can be used for such cases? The resolution and quality typically do not match commercial grade cameras. Okay, great. That's fine. So this is just some project for ground penetrating radar. You could presumably build one of these in your yard. I guess it's remote controlled. It's a cute little guy. How well does it work? I have no idea. You can probably drive this over to your neighbor's yard to see if they have anything buried there, like treasure. I don't know if you can find treasure. Let's search that. Can GPR be used to find treasure, especially pirate treasure that is buried? And if so, how deep can it be buried? Okay, yes, it can be used to find a buried pirate treasure. Electromagnetic pulses into the ground and recording the echoes that bounce back. It does not require metal objects. Yeah, how deep can it go? In ideal conditions such as dry sand or granite, it can penetrate very deep, up to 100 feet, 30 meters or so. Less than 1 meter for wet clay or saline soil. That's too bad. How do you do remote sensing in clay, say wet clay soil, if GPR doesn't work well? I'm not even sure GPR is considered remote sensing. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but there may be some reason. Electromagnetic induction. I think that probably requires metal, right? Transmit an electromagnetic field. Magnetometry, magnetic surveying, electrical resistivity. Do these all require metal? Okay, so there are, EMI is effective at magnetometry can successfully locate non-metallic archaeological features like ancient fire pits or hearths and soil disturbances. Okay. ERT for detecting non-metallic features by identifying differences in resistivity values. Okay. So those are good. This is for searching stuff underground. What else? I guess we haven't seen any sort of open source stuff about tracking grid searches. I'm kind of enjoying how fast the Google AI mode is responding compared to Gemini. So let's try, is there open source software for managing grid searches or a Bayesian search? There's a wide range of open source software available for managing both grid searches and Bayesian search and Bayesian optimization. I meant for Bayesian search theory, which may not actually be a real thing, but that's a separate question. So grid search is okay. I mean search in real locations, e.g. for missing people. And by Bayesian search, I mean Bayesian search theory. Okay. So they integrate with GIS, yeah. So okay. So there are custom scripts and libraries, for example, in Python, R, and MATLAB. And presumably they go with QGIS. I don't think ArcGIS is open source, is it? I'm guessing not. ArcGIS. Proprietary. Okay, great. Hardware and IoT solutions. Rescue is an open source project using Wi-Fi sniffing to locate missing people via their phone's signals. But then they have to be carrying their phone, which I think law enforcement can tell if you have your phone with you and you move around. Notable professional government systems, not open source. And it uses this blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's try QGIS Bayesian search theory. And let's try QGIS search grid, or rather grid search, but again, QGIS. The basic principle. Apply a Bayesian network to each point in one or more raster layers, and output a new raster layer with the result, for each point potential covering multiple layers. Okay. The user can select a number of output values, index of state with maximum probability, probability of state with maximum probability, etc. Okay. I don't know if that's for perform spatial probabilistic analysis. I think that's for maybe analyzing pictures. Like, does this have a tumor sort of thing? What if I add search and rescue? SAR patterns. I don't know. Module title. Optimize search areas for SAR. There doesn't seem to be a lot here. I don't know if QGIS has what's the word? Robust like plugin ecosystem. Enhancing Geo AI land cover classification. Okay. That's not finding what I want to find. There is this Wikipedia article on Bayesian search theory. Maybe it has a list of software. A GIS plugin for Bayesian belief networks. For regional modeling. To assess and visualize uncertainties in ecosystem service mapping. Seems like you could use this. But no. Searching in boxes. It's incorporated in the CASP computer-assisted search program mission planning software used by the U.S. Coast Guard. Is this still actively used? How about just looking for Bayesian search theory in GitHub? It holds source codes for implementing batch simulation of Bayesian search theory within the context of salvage operations. Okay, so I guess salvage is like pirates, like pirates' treasure, right? This is doing some sort of search, and then I guess it's going to pop up with some sort of indication of the most likely area. I don't know. I'm guessing this is the grid that you're going to search. And it seems to say that nothing is probable, if that's what it means, that everything is the same color. Okay, so I'm guessing that there is an R package. Battleship AI using applied Bayesian search theory. Check out the demo. I guess maybe an AI for the game of Battleship. All right, so I'm going to leave it off there. I feel like what did we learn? First of all, we learned that I don't think there's a lot there. I think if you were going to run or help with a search that you didn't have the right resources for, then your best bet is probably QGIS, possibly with some plugins. Like, I don't know how you would annotate a search. Maybe let's look using QGIS. How would I track a search for my lost cat? I want to know what I searched and when, and also annotate a timeline, record a timeline of events. Well, it's DeepSeek. I'm guessing this is possible. Goes beyond typical mapping tasks. The user wants to track a lost cat. Excellent idea. Thank you. Helps avoid whatever this is and can reveal patterns. So you create two types of data: search areas, polygons showing where you physically looked, and events. And then you create a new project, add a base map, set project CRS, some coordinate reference system. And then for the search layers, you have some polygon that says where you've searched. And then you can tag it with metadata fields like the date and time, who searched, the method, and you save it as some file format. Then you create a timeline events layer. And everything is a point. I'm guessing like a point. The coordinates wouldn't have geographical meaning, but I guess you can just lay them out in a number line. And that seems reasonable. It would be nice to have a kind of a tool that did that for you, but this seems like doable manually. Let's see if there are QGIS plugins. QGIS plugin ecosystem, or maybe tooling. Eco condition toolset. I think it's looking for ecosystem in the sense of like the actual ecosystem. There's a page of plugins. Explore, free and open source. So let's explore 3D Arcs, 3D City Builder, Akka, whatever Akka is. So I'm guessing a lot of these are going to be game related, new and updated, top, other categories, stable, experimental. So these are not categories in the sense of like what do they do. I feel like how new is it? So can I search? I can search. How about search? What if I search for search? Quick map services, semi-automatic classification, place search, geocoding, resource sharing. And GeoSearch. So does QGIS allow distributed collaboration? That would be nice to know. It does not have built-in real-time collaboration like Google Docs. Is there an open source GIS software that does support this? I think one might have been mentioned. Several open source software. So GeoNode. Okay, so there's GeoNode, PostGIS plus GeoServer. Whatever that is, Atlas Co. Modern browser-based GIS platform. So we'll look at those. And GeoServer. So PostGIS, I'm guessing, is just Postgres with GIS information. This does not look so open source. I'm not sure if I believe it. This looks okay. Build. Visualize, build. I don't believe that's open source. It might be, but I don't see it. Did I ask for open source? These are all open source. Let's see if we can find. So it claims that GeoNode is a. Maybe this is just a different GeoNode. Yeah, the creation and collaboration of geospatial data. Okay, so this is something. It seems to be up to date. That is the geonode.org website. But okay, so what does it look like? Guidelines, channels. Try the demo. Gallery. I'm not sure that these are. These look like they're kind of like. This is for like smaller websites or something. Although you can, it looks like you can share paths or polygons, so that might be good. I don't know what this is. This is just the website I opened. Ethiopia land degradation. So I guess this seems to be actually being used. Okay, so that's like sharing geospatial map data. But I think that's different from collaborating on it, isn't it? For sharing geospatial data. Okay. In collaborative use. So how do you collaborate? For this reason, I have decided not to continue collaborating with Code in this project. My future contributions will be limited to reporting issues. Why? In the past, I contributed my PRs, and instead of receiving feedback on them, I saw that my code was taken and directly replaced. My PRs were rejected. Okay, so this person does not want to contribute anymore. That's fine. So, okay, so these allow collaboration in the sense that multiple people can edit the map at the same time. I'm guessing that, yeah, okay. So PostGIS is the definitive answer to the true enterprise level concurrent editing. It is designed to handle multiple blah, blah, blah. So what is a GeoServer? I mean, we can see what it looks like. GeoServer. Okay. That's not helpful. Do we get what the front end looks like? Maybe the is it just serving the data? What is CartGIS? A version control system for it's a QGIS plugin. what is the front end? Does a GeoServer just serve the data, and you use a use a different front end to view it? And we can look up CartGIS. Seems reasonable. Kind of has an old school Windows application look and feel. Yes, that is exactly right. It's a server-side application that primarily serves data. And so front ends, you could use open layers. You could use MapBender or Leaflet or custom applications. Okay, well, whatever. All right, so there's some stuff. It seems like you would kind of have to build a lot of it yourself. There doesn't seem to be any kind of out-of-the-box like search and rescue plugins for QGIS, although maybe that's the wrong place to look. I can ask, so would you use QGIS as a front end? Also, does PostGIS, what's it called? GeoServer? Does GeoServer or PostGIS have a plugin ecosystem where you can add script or programmatically modify and update layers of data, I guess is one way to ask it. So you can use QGIS as a front end. They both have powerful blah, blah, blah. So QGIS is a fat client. It connects to GeoServer using the web map service. Fine. An organization might want to use PostGIS as essential data, blah, 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 blah. Plugin ecosystem, SQL and stored procedures. That's not really what I mean. Tools like OGR to OGR can connect to the database and batch process data. And then GeoServer has a range of extensions, including new formats. What about live tracking of a fleet with tracking spelled incorrectly? Okay. So, but how would you do it? You'd have GPS hardware tracking server like TrackR, a popular free open source server that supports 80 different protocols, open remote or fleet base. The TrackR server would ideally be configured to write the blah blah. Okay, so there's something called TrackR, GPS tracking software. Is it open source? They do have an open source repo. Real-time GPS tracking, driver behavior monitoring, and then they have an app, 100% Java. Okay, I don't see what the app looks like, but that's fine. Okay, so you can piece some of this together. The original idea was I was thinking like, what would it be like? Are there projects for this sort of thing? And it seems like there are not. So if you wanted to try to share information and like share map data, I think the way that people are kind of doing it on YouTube and whatnot right now is just they each have their own maps and they maybe share screenshots of it. You could in theory set something like this up, but then the question is like whoever does it has to know about like managing a Postgres instance. They need to know what happens if it goes down or goes wrong. There's no kind of like canned solution where you just start up a Docker container or something and everything works. You'd have to like configure a plugin and maybe have like another system talk to the other system. And then even then, if you set up kind of like the mapping software, you wouldn't really get the timelines. It sounds like you might be able to use something like a logic database to do some of the timelining stuff, like the name of the database, I forget. it does not have. It has a T in it, but let's see if we can find that database again. Stop that. Temporal, bitemporal database. Was it an Apache project like Yana? I don't think it was Apache. Awesome data, bitemporal modeling. What was it? Terminus. So you could set something up possibly like Terminus to handle the timelining, but that would be, I think, too much overhead for little payoff. So I suspect this is why most people are kind of using, like if they're collaborating, maybe they're using Google Docs. There are probably free or freemium apps that people with fewer resources use. But there doesn't seem to be any sort of like semi-polished open source project, which might be because it's too niche a topic, which is good. You don't want it to become something that many people have a need for. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot more that could be done in this space. I don't know if is it an interesting thing to do with our time? I don't know. We did look quickly at Alculus and Canvas, and these, I'll look at them again. I think they're mainly kind of like tracking tickets, almost maybe like a bug tracker. Let's see if we can find more about it. So the case management, create and track cases with customizable report numbering. Role-based access controls and entity system, track individual people, companies, domains, IP addresses. Organized file storage. Yeah, this sounds kind of like a little bit like a bug tracker, or a tracker you might use for like tracking maintenance in an apartment building or something. And this again, okay, so Canvas was like a network tool. Yeah. All right. Maybe you can use Emacs. Is there an Emacs timeline? Timeline modes. How to present historical timelines. Org timeline. I mean, I guess you can do it in org mode. Like this. That's not really the most helpfulest. Is there an Emacs GIS plugin? Emacs GIS, small world minimal improvement at my company. How about geographical data? No. Okay. Well, this has certainly given me some ideas about, I guess, what I personally would do if I wanted to work in this space. I don't know. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Let me know if you are aware of software in this space, if I left something major out, or if yeah. So if I left something major out that was an obvious, maybe like open source solution, either that people do use for this, for looking for missing people, or that they use for something very similar. Like maybe, now that I think about it, hunting, not Emacs. Hunting map software. So hunting tracking, maybe hunting is a popular enough sport that there's open source software for it. Is there open source software for tracking hunting maps in real time? Or maybe like mountain climbing, bouldering. There are many excellent proprietary paid subscription apps for hunting that offer real-time GPS tracking and mapping. There's no single full-featured open source software. Okay. So there's Onyx Hunt, which I think I have heard of. If your primary need, so TrackR is the thing that we saw. It's a fleet tracking, own tracks, and GPS logger can record your location data in formats like GPX files. I'm guessing that's some sort of GPS file that uses XML. And so basically it says use a fleet, a car tracker. Open Tracks seems like it's like a for individual use. Open Tracks, an Android app from relatively recently updated. See our booklet for details of how to get started. But what does it do? Broker connection. But what does it do? What it does? Here we go. It runs in the background and waits for the smartphone to tell it that the device is moved, whereupon OpenTrack sends out a message with its current coordinates. Okay, so it's a tracking app for you to maybe spy on your family or something. I don't know. Open Street Maps we didn't touch on, but we have talked about before. I'm not really sure how that fits in with all the GIS stuff. And here, just in terms of UX, I don't know what that is. This is what some of the like proprietary hunting stuff looks like. I mean, this seems like a nice map. This is some sort of like overlay. I'm guessing grid overlay over a topographical map of some sort that's being rendered. And what? I want to see maps, not deer. I mean, you draw polygons and you have pointers, and there's presumably some sort of social information, like John Hunter. And I don't know what this is saying, but it seems to be some location. Maybe it's not social information. Maybe it doesn't tell you like who he is as a person, but just where he is. And this is whatever, Spartan Forge, similar. And then you can kind of see the underlying topographical map with the concentric, or not concentric, but the elevation lines, isoclines, I guess, and the overlay of the rendered thing, and then maybe like satellite footage. All right. So I'm going to end my look there. If I find, as I'm thinking about all this, if I find, or I think about the something that we should have looked into more closely, I may narrow it down to like one or two projects and look at them more closely. But that's it, I guess, for now, for the initial look at this space. Thanks for joining me. This is Ants Are Everywhere, and I'll see you again next week.